Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. It is Monday, October 18th, 2021. Wherever you are this morning, waking up in the beautiful state of Grenada, that is Grenada, Carriacou, Piti, Martinique, we welcome you to the broadcast. I am Brenda, Baptiste. We'd like to welcome all the broadcast entities who are carrying this program live this morning. Of course, MTV, we are on air and online. Mikey Live, Partygrenada, TNR Communications, Sister Isle in Carriacou, and our own Perspectives page. Good morning and welcome. Say a special good morning to Senator Christopher Dayali and Mr. Byron Campbell. Did I forget your name for just a minute there?
I'm going to say it on the public what is happening here with me, but good morning to our viewers and our listeners, and it's a pleasure to be back at Perspectives again for another day and another week. We start another week in October, and we're fast moving to the end of October, Brenda. It will appear. I just want to say that, when I look at the trend for COVID, we're heading in the right direction, and we're continuing to get there, and we had 2 days without any COVID-related deaths, and that's an excellent achievement. And I think we must say, kudos to all the great work that's being done in the background. This morning, I want to change the narrative a little, Brenda, and I want to keep up along the business line, and I want to quickly talk on the issue of, there was a recent article that came out about the Doing Business Ranking Index. And this was an index and a thing that a lot of us in these small island developing states used to look at, and potential investors used to look at to guide their investments into the country and whether this is a corrupt country, as depending on where you sat on the index, low or high, only to find out from the World Bank, that this index was a total disaster. It was the parameters they were using were not good parameters, and that worst of it all, they had countries that were infiltrating the people who were preparing the ranking, and it was all a big sham. And here we are, small island developing states in Grenada. I know this was a big thing for us every time the ranking came out, and there was a lot of political talk about where we are, what we're not doing, what we're supposed to do. And we even had a whole department one time in the Ministry of Finance dedicated to this ranking issue.
Right.
And here now, it is a situation where the World Bank say, no, this has to be scrapped, and they're not even coming back with their ranking.
Are you surprised?
Yes, I was, because we used to put so much emphasis. Anytime a potential investor came into Grenada, whether it's through CBI or not, they went to the legal counsel. And one of the first things that was always touted on our faces was where your Doing Business ranking was, and whether or not the risk of investing in your country was worth it based on the ranking. So it did affect the amount of investment flows into the country. Definitely. So I was surprised that something that was sanctioned by the World Bank wasn't given the attention in terms of its validity and all of that before they put out this ranking and talk about how it impacted, especially small island developing states.
I'm asking the surprise question because I want to throw a fork in the road. But that's with a real sharp index in the middle, right? A fork in the road with a real sharp spear in the middle. Of that, I believe the OECD, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, all these organizations. So countries will tell you, like the United States and Europe, and so they will tell you, we would not interfere in your internal affairs. So that's diplomatic language. But it's just another form of capitalization. And to me, they have found a way to wield their power through these organizations on these small states as ours. So that's why I say I'm not surprised, because call me a conspiracy theorist in that sense, but I think we really need to we cannot be naive about the geopolitical sphere in which we live. I have always believed that these organizations is just another way for the capitalist and the big power to control islands like ours. So we're happy for the loans and all of that, but we get the loans only to what extent? Even last week, Prime Minister Motley was talking about that. You categorize us as developing in one sense, then you say we underdeveloped to another qualification. So that is why.
Prime Minister Motley just alluded to what it did in the G20, a tax rate and a tax regime in Barbados. And Barbados had one of the lowest tax regimes and percentages in the region and probably the world. They were at 2%, I think, or 2 to 5%. And then they said it was, not competitive, and they forced her to go back up to make it more world. And again, we're talking about sovereignty. The nation didn't have a sovereign right to do what they want in the world. And
it's about control. It's a lot of control.
But quickly, I'll just talk quickly. I know, Byron, we have to talk about the core bank and the situation that developed recently with the announcement of the possible taking over of CIBC and its assets. And then we had a riser buying bonds to ensure that public officers got it to the tune of 4 million. And of course, last but not least, the throne speech as a precursor to the budget 2022 that's going to come. And I'd like to hear your views on some of those.
Yeah, so Chris, morning.
I try a lot to
get my manners, it's Monday. But yeah, so I'll come to that, Chris, but I'm a history guy, Today's October 18th.
History buff.
Tomorrow is October 19th. I was on the 4th, Chris, October 19th. Still.
You're a traumatized child.
Yeah. In parts.
Okay.
But it's our history and it's here. But certainly, Chris, I also touch on the cost of living. Energy price, gasoline price went up yesterday again, or today when it starts, another 30 today. But I made that point previously that energy cost is going up. So expect related inflationary costs worldwide. This is not going to be limited to us. But I think, as you mentioned, what's happening in the whole banking sector, I think this is a good thing. That the indigenous bank greater presence and consolidating their because there is economy of scale here also, you know. And so I think it's a good move.
It's a consortium of indigenous buying First Caribbean, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think, and you also mentioned the Public Workers Union matter and the bond, $4 million in bond taken by Riser, and that's quite positive. So I can see public workers being very pleased that they're getting their money. Someone else is.
They get it at the end of October.
October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is a good thing. It augurs well, I think. But one of the downsides, I was hearing the discussion about LIAT workers, and there's quite some in Grenada, and the whole question of their pension and their future and job security, and where that is going. To what extent individual governments are taking responsibility, and how this is going to fan out. So it's there's a lot happening on the political side. Of course, we've been hearing about the leadership issue within the NDC and how this is going to go in a virtual environment and
convention
so
that is supposed to come off,
So
hopefully.
and of course the throne speech. I thought, but what's interesting about the throne speech? The whole backdrop of it had to do with COVID-19 and how we managed COVID-19, because that would dictate really what happens. And so it's interesting. We look forward to because the forerunner to the budget, and it gives us an idea, an indication what happens next month when that budget comes out, and how COVID play and critical areas like health and education in particular.
Has a date been announced for the presentation yet?
No, but usually I would expect
Probably
this.
So what's the
December.
end?
Of
November?
November, certainly around there.
But
my
December.
information
Last year
is
it was early December.
my information is that things are going fairly well in terms of that.
But the one thing in the throne speech that came out to me, Byron, that gave some prominence was agriculture. I thought there was an emphasis to mention agriculture, apart from the other sectors which we normally hear, and education, of course. But I thought agriculture was particularly singled out, in this particular environment, and how we could work and develop agriculture in a more holistic way, and put some emphasis on that. And I think that was positive as well for farmers and fishers, that this is an area now that is going to be highlighted in some degree.
As we talk about agriculture, what's going on at the GCNA? Are you guys in a crunch for funds again? You stopped buying nutmegs? What's going on?
Okay, yeah, no.
Sorry, I did not mean to do
No,
that.
I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question. Well, you need to think. Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, thanks for that. You're better at doing this than me.
No, because I mean, there's quite a swelling on the ground about what's happening at the GCNA. So what is happening?
So here's the thing. Okay, there's a merger issue that's still there. Still, that's been echoed. But cash flow is always an issue for the industry. I mean, you have a positive thing happening in industry is that we see prices are going very positively on the international.
Why are they not buying nutmegs?
Okay, well, it's a COVID issue also.
Cash flow issue.
Cash flow, COVID, in other words, so they're doing it weekly. So this week, for example, is it this week, I believe,
The farmers understand that.
Well,
what's going on?
There's a fair amount of communication to farmers on this matter, and it has to do with cash flow and selling. I mean, it's a business in a normal way, and your cash flow plays a role. I mean,
it's a timing issue
as well
when you get paid for your
exactly
your
because
sales.
think about it is that
And when you
the GCNA is buying the nutmeg before it's sold.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So very often the banks have to provide you with overdraft facilities so you can purchase the nutmeg continually. So there is an important, and farmers must understand this. You know, I mean, there's the echo into of is there going to be any bonus this year? Yeah. Well, bonus is a factor where you make profits. Yeah, bonus is not automatic. You know, but I can't predict what it's going to be. But clearly, if you have a cash flow, it's always a cash flow issue in the industry.
Yeah. But that expectation of bonus, I mean, it's always there.
Yeah.
And I mean, based on you say you're buying the nutmegs before you sell them, and all of that. That's a business model that works for the GCNA.
Well, it probably worked over the years, but I think what they need to manage now, you see, is a sensitive thing. If you sell to your suppliers and the suppliers say they'll pay you in say 45 days, but you buying from your farmers immediately every day, there's a time lag between when the money comes in and so on.
Exactly.
Now you have to build up a buffer either through reserves or through an overdraft. You keep on buying until you receive your money. So if your buffer can't span the 45 days or more, then you're going to run into a cash flow difficulty.
Chris, here's the situation too. And I mean, I serve on the board as the chairman. I remember being the chairman of GCNA. We had surplus of $15 million, just over $15 million.
How
long ago was that?
That was just in the early 20s, meaning that might have been 2022, 2001, 2002, 2003, around that period. But here's the situation, just before Ivan, by the way, and went to the general meeting, proposed a $10 million bonus. It was shot down. Farmers' position was, we want all our money, 15 million. So the proposal was to establish a reserve so that when you have a price shock, price down, you can manage this and pay a bonus when there isn't money. So I mean, you have to think about farmers. I mean, they work hard, they're entitled to their money, it's their money, and they dictate, but that's what they want. Usually they want. So here we have a situation. The other thing is too that we sell in futures. So although the price in the international market now is going up, but the nutmeg we are selling now, we negotiated before. So hopefully once we are able to satisfy our current obligations, you'll probably see a better price in the market because the market is looking good from that point of view as far as prices are concerned.
And that is part of it has to do with the education of the farmer and what.
Well, most def. You
know, our farmers, and I don't want to get emotional on the subject as I normally do with nutmeg, but we haven't provided properly for our farmers. They don't have a health scheme in place. They don't have a pension scheme in place. I know the association has been looking
and yet we don't want to merge.
And yet we don't want to merge. And there's a lot of suspicions around the merger.
Because merging, and just a word on this.
As the British would say, carry on.
Just a word on this. It's the same farmers, both in the nutmeg and the cocoa industry.
That's right.
Like me, I'm in both. So why have two operations, two managers, two accountants, two marketing?
Mr. Campbell, why they don't understand that? Why is that message not resonating?
No, that message is resonating. Because
I
was part of the team.
So what is not resonating?
No, there's a lot of mistrust.
And
a lot of issues of what would have happened in the past and whether or not we'd repeat it with some of the previous chairmans of both organizations. So there's a lot of mistrust issues more than understanding that farmers do understand there's cost savings and there's a lot of things, a lot of good energies to be gotten by merging back office operations. But there is the issue of this trust issue that you have to overcome. And of course, there's a certain amount of politics that get involved in it as well.
Chris, you're correct.
Right.
So it's that. And I think once, not that they don't understand, I think they fully understand it. It's just a matter of getting over that hump. Of the trust issues.
Well, that's a hump that didn't seem to be going anywhere.
Well, no, I think sometimes the powers that be have to draw a line in the sand and say, as of this date, we're going to do this. Because if you don't...
But then the pushback.
No, but I mean, the pushback is political because most of the governments, most of the political aspect of it is farmers is a chunk of votes and you don't want to angry them get them angry around times of elections and so on. So let's delay. But the issue is you can't delay it for as long as you can. There must be a time when it has to
The
happen.
Nutmeg Ordinance is 1940.
7.
Yeah. Yes.
We in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's a different world.
Yeah, sorry.
And I mean, there's the huge aspect of nutmeg of value added.
I'm so sorry.
When you look at cocoa has gone so far with value added, and is doing so well.
Leaps and bounds.
We haven't gone value added with
Leaps and
nutmeg yet to
bounds.
the point where we could.
Well,
do very
enough.
well.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's work in progress. But I always believe the good thing about work in progress, and we can't consult and talk for the rest of our life. We have to make a decision.
Yes.
But it's on the agenda. It's on the
It has
agenda.
to be. Has to be.
What number?
Huh?
What number on the agenda? Push him.
Leave Byron alone.
I come to push him this morning. I
want to quickly talk about the bond that Ariza bought and the $4 million for public workers to pay them their retroactive. I thought that was an excellent move by Ariza, understanding the history of that particular credit union.
Absolutely. And when Mrs. Livingston spoke, she totally got it. I mean, Mrs. Andel. She's Lucia Livingston Andel. When Mrs. Andel spoke, she totally got it because she just gave you the context as to why they needed to do this and how she tied the public workers to the union and the history and that was fantastic. And
I think public workers would understand that as well. I think Ariza would have gotten a big bee in the bonnet for that. You know, a lot of financial institutions will probably offer this and they took it up. I mean, $4 million is a significant amount of money for them to put in a bond. So it is something that was probably spoken about a lot at the executive level.
Kind of rates the space, Chris?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if government was paying 3% or what 3%. On the bond.
Okay.
I believe once that was done, I think it was an excellent move on their side. And I think it's something that they needed to do as well, understanding the history of it. So kudos to them. I think it's a really good move. And I know public workers will be happy about this and that they wanted their money in their hand.
It was a struggle.
I think government happy too because this issue have been put to rest to some degree and the labor issues, you know, in your country, apart from the challenges with the economy and all the things that we face there is also the labor climate needing to be relatively stable as well so that it facilitates what we do and get
talking about stability as well. These sets of regulations run out midnight tomorrow. So we're expecting to hear the new sets.
We go into 12 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
No, I think... listen, I think we should go... Listen.
Where we should go?
I think we should go to 11 o'clock.
11.
I am saying this because we have said that vaccinated people only can go to restaurant, bars. We are now closing bars and restaurants at 5 in the afternoon, right? We have a lot of the people have gone out, gotten vaccinated to go back to work. So if we are saying that only vaccinated people could do restaurant and bars and do the nightlife kind of thing in terms of the places you can enter, right, to be served and so on. When vaccinated people enter there, the risk of transfer of infection is less. If somebody, you know, get it, they won't get sick or whatever. You don't have this mass movement going on at night. Mass movement happens in the day. If 1,000 of us can be in a supermarket in the day, 100 people could be in a space, you know, at night. So we need to be, I think we really need to, in order to push business, in order to get us kind of used to a normal way, because at some point we need to be thinking about ending the curfew and ending the SOE. We have identified that COVID is here to stay. We are living with COVID. We cannot be reckless, but I think we need to extend the curfew, and we need to, for this, and people who are vaccinated need to move. You know, the people who in the craft center who are having a problem because their business is kind of, well, let's say you have to be vaccinated, but the people who are, they should be allowed to operate their business. So I think we need to be going in that way. 7 o'clock. No, and we don't have the risk. We have to be careful about the second wave, but we don't have the risk. I think we need to start, you know, really opening up, giving business a chance to breathe and give people a chance to breathe.
I won't comment when we talk to the minister. I know we have to break now, but I know we won't comment when I come back because me and mandatory vaccination. So
well, we already have people vaccinated and we have to live and we have to move on.
I want to talk
11 o'clock, 11 p.m. or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
But
we're going to take
7
bets
o'clock.
before we leave. Huh?
Yeah.
And not betting, I just say it.
All I would say is caution.
It is Perspectives on a Monday. This morning, of course, we have a two-pronged program. When we come back, we welcome the Managing Director of Republic Bank Grenada, Mrs. Naomi Dayali, and our Minister for Education. We speak to her in the second half. We take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Get Vax. It's your best shot. Hello.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
For persons with symptoms of COVID-19, testing is done within 5 days of the start of symptoms using a SARS-CoV-2 antigen test. If the result is positive, individuals are required to isolate for 14 days. Day 1 of isolation is the day of confirmation with a positive test. Retesting is not required for release from isolation. Once persons complete the required 14-day isolation, they can resume normal activities, observing routine public health protocols. If the result is negative, a PCR test will be done for confirmation. If the PCR test is positive, the individual is required to isolate for 14 days as above. If the PCR test is negative, the individual will be released from quarantine and can resume normal activities observing routine public health protocols.
Welcome back to Perspectives. If you're just joining us, our first guest panelist this morning is the Managing Director of Republic Bank Grenada Limited, Mrs. Naomi Dayali. Mrs. Dayali is a daughter of the soil, and she's a career banker with a wealth of experience in commercial credit, corporate credit, and risk management streams. Gathered over her 26 years plus with the Republic Group. Naomi, an associate of the Chartered Institute of Bankers UK, holds a Bachelor of Science with Honours degree in Financial Services from the University of Manchester and a Masters of Science degree in Financial Services Management from the University of London. For the past 3 years, she held the position of General Manager Credit and Enterprise Risk at Republic Bank Barbados Limited. Before her secondment to Barbados, she served as General Manager Credit at Republic Bank Grenada Limited for 5 years. Mrs. Dayali was appointed to the position of Managing Director of Republic Bank Limited in April of this year. It is a pleasure to welcome to Perspective this morning the Managing Director of Republic Bank Grenada, Mrs. Naomi Dayali. Welcome, Mrs. Dayali.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, the prettier of the Dayalis. So, Mrs. Dayali, April, we're now in October. How has it been so far?
Exciting, busy. We have a busy agenda with our IT conversion, and setting the stage for the strategic plan for the next 3 years has been a good journey. And I'm really happy to be back with the team in Grenada to lead them into the future.
All right. So let's talk about the conversion, because that is what's going on. If people be wondering, conversion, what is Republic Bank doing? Just in case you're wondering about the word. So having been a customer, didn't the bank convert from Scotia in November 2020? And what is the conversion about?
Okay, when in November 2019, we acquired the branches located in Halifax Street and Grand Anse at Steeles Complex. We assured our customers that we weren't going to change immediately products and services the way they have grown accustomed to operating, because we wanted to ensure a smooth transition for our customers. So we rebranded to Republic Blue, but we stayed on the Scotiabank platform.
Okay.
So the conversion now for us, as we said in January 2021, we have done quite a bit of work. We have put a plan together to bring some exciting new products and services to our customers. And so we are ready now to roll out that IT conversion, to move from the Scotiabank banking platform to Republic Bank's suite of technology products. So that's what the excitement is about.
Oh, interesting.
So it's Dayali, good day.
Hello.
And Brenda, I mean, I had to defend my friend here. I think he matches up pretty good, I think.
No, I'm sticking with my point. She is the prettier of the Dayalis.
He
Don't
matches
argue,
up.
don't
He
argue.
matches up.
We're both pretty.
For customers of the previous Scotiabank in the conversion, how safe are my resources? How safe are my funds? Are there going to be any delays in terms of working with? How would it work for me as a depositor in the Scotiabank? Well, previous Scotiabank. What would it mean for me? My resources. Is it safe? Would it be inconvenient? What's that roll going to be like?
It's going to be safe and secure, as we know it as bankers. Republic Bank makes sure, and that's why we took quite a while, November 19 to now, before we start the conversion process, because a lot of work on the back end has to happen to make sure that the customer that sits on the Scotiabank platform will be the same customer and profile on the Republic Bank platform, with no risk of loss of value. And so what we're doing is as we're engaging now in that Let's Talk conversion series, that media series, is ready to get the customer more attuned, more engaged, to let them know what to expect and what they need to do, what they need to look out for. So for the persons at the new branches, they'll be getting emails from the bank. They'll be getting SMS messages. When their time comes to come to collect their debit card, we have set up an off-site distribution center for debit card distribution, because quite a lot of debit cards to change out.
Yeah.
And we don't want customers on the day we convert to new technology and the system goes live and they push their card into the ATM to get $100 and wow, it does not work.
Yeah, because I have a Scotia card, still a Scotia card, that red card. I like the color though, it's easily differentiated
You don't
in
like
my
blue?
wallet.
The
No,
sky
it's
is
easily
blue.
differentiated. Red kind of sticks out at me. That's
Okay.
fine. But I want to know, so at what time would I be receiving my new debit card or what's the timeline like?
Right. So right now, about 2 Fridays ago, we started. We doing it in batch of about 400 to 500 customers. We send them an email. Your turn now to come to collect your debit card. You will get that email. If you haven't had that email, probably by end of October, you probably need to reach out and say, I didn't receive my email. But what you could do now is to make sure that the bank has their updated information. You may have changed your email in recent times, or you may have changed your cell number. So we've been reaching out to our customers to make sure that the information we have on the system is relevant to that exercise. Make sure your information is up to date. So if you had a change of contact, you need to
So at
advise
what day
us.
that card would no longer be working? What day? What's the cutoff day?
The day the system goes live.
And
And we would
is that?
advise.
Oh, you don't. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
good.
We would,
announced this.
we would
Okay,
advise
fine.
you.
Okay,
Yes?
okay.
We would
fine.
advise you when
So
that
don't
happens.
panic. Yeah.
No, don't panic. We're readying the customer. There will be no shocks. No
Okay.
shocks.
Right.
Very smooth
Okay.
transition.
Okay.
Right. So the credit cards and the new credit cards and the new debit cards issuance, they're on their way. And I know some people already have the blue card, as you mentioned, the Scotia customers. Should they get the new debit and credit cards as well?
Definitely. Because as I said before, we are operating on the Scotiabank platform. So the
Right.
card, the blue card that you're talking about was issued on that platform.
Yeah.
That platform is going to be no more when we
Okay.
go live. So everyone who has that blue card or red card in the case of Byron must still collect their new card and have it ready for when we say the system is live.
Okay.
You know, so you would definitely need to get that card so that because it will be set up on the new Republic Bank platform, and that's the only place it will work. It wouldn't work on the old system.
So is the conversion system, is it new for Republic Bank customers as well and the old Scotiabank customers? So is it a new migration? Everybody's going into this new migration?
Eventually, for now, we're doing the 2 branches. It's a step-by-step process.
Right.
We'll settle the 2 branches first to get them off the Scotiabank platform to the Republic platform. And then later on, we will queue up the 6 legacy branches.
Right.
And their turn will come for the new debit card, new credit card, and all the bells and
Right.
whistles that's coming.
So in addition to all these new services, what can we expect? What are the changes in terms of your products and services for customers as you do this exciting conversion?
A lot of changes. So besides new debit card, new credit card, having new features such as contactless. You see that you will see when you get your new blue card, you will see a little like a wireless sign, and that's where new feature that you could go into a bar and pay for your drink by just tapping, and you're gone. So new exciting features on the debit and credit card. As well, we have new mobile and internet banking platforms, and those are new to both legacy as well as new branches. Totally new technology.
Okay.
And then we'll have other new interfaces like the ATMs
ATM.
and point of sale. We have to change out all the point of sale machines so that they'll be on par with the new technology that's coming.
What about folks who are they live away and they have their red or blue card at the moment?
Yeah.
How are you facilitating them?
So we know we have quite a bit of Grenadians in the diaspora who banks with us. So we have put things in place that they could contact us if they have not heard from us, but more often than not, we'll be posting their card at our expense to them. We have arrangement on the back end for them to pin their card. And later on, other persons on my team will be coming on to other talk shows and radio shows to talk about how the overseas customers could pin their card safely, so that there's no hiccups in how they do their banking.
Convenience is a big issue in banking, both in terms of ATMs and physical space. So in St. George, you have ATM, where Scotia was previously. Are you going to maintain the physical space and the ATMs related to that, and how is that going to work in terms of the rollout? Yeah.
Oh yes, all the ATMs will need some upgrading and change out. As I said, the interface will change, but all of those things will be maintained, because we see, especially in this time of the pandemic, less coming into the banking hall and more using the digital technology, the ATMs and so forth. We really need to get our Grenadian customers or members of the public to use those features, those channels that we have available, because it's more convenient to just go to an ATM and get your cash.
Of course.
Or it's more convenient to go on internet banking and transfer money that I owe to Byron via EFT, or pay a supplier in St. Lucia without even coming to the bank. These are the features straight through processing. While the SWIFT transfer, you don't have to come into the bank and sign a long form. You just go on the platform and do that yourself.
And the physical bank would remain. I mean, you're in the city. Are you going to still maintain those 2 bricks and mortar buildings, or are you going to incorporate it? What's the long-term
There's
plan
no
going forward?
immediate plan to
that.
touch the brick and mortar.
Okay.
Because transition to a digital platform takes a while.
Okay.
Customers don't embrace it readily. They first have to get to know
Okay.
about it,
Yeah.
trust it,
So
and
it's a
so
process,
forth.
yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
As the way banking is going now, it's less brick and mortar and
Yeah.
more technology.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how that will shake out for
Right.
us in
Yeah.
Grenada.
Yeah.
But we know there are some customers who may never use the technology. Age-wise, they're not tech savvy.
True.
So we still need the brick and mortar.
Coming to
some-
the bank is still an outing for a lot
Yes,
of
and
people.
getting a nice smile, welcome, and everything else.
Yeah, but with the acquisition of Scotia, the brick and mortar, you now have like 8 or 10 branches.
8.
8 branches, yeah.
Yes,
That
yes,
was more
8.
than you acquired, so that is.
So we
you-
have the largest branch network in Grenada
Right,
right
and
now.
your immediate
Yeah.
plans are for those doors
Yeah.
to remain
Yes, those
open.
2, yes, to be converted and later on legacy. Now I must say to our legacy customers, they've been patient for quite a while.
Yeah.
Because even before we acquired the Scotiabank operations in the EC, there was a plan quite advanced to convert for legacy branches, for the branches in Grenada. But when that opportunity came, we had to pivot and pay attention to an opportunity that would not come up every day.
Yeah.
So they had to be pushed back a little, and it's unfortunate, but that's how business goes, uncertainty. But we are committed that this time we are going with that conversion for legacy branches as soon as we finish settle the 2 new branches. So no need to be worried as to or concerned why it is the Republic giving the attention to the 2 new branches and we here long and I've heard those comments,
Right.
and there's a reason why we have to do the 2 new branches first.
Okay.
But we have no hesitation in saying that we are coming quite soon to
Right.
convert legacy branches.
So, Mrs. Dayali, what again can we expect to hear about the conversion? When and what's going to happen?
Right. So stay tuned. We want to get our customers engaged now. That's why we're starting that conversation, that series of Let's Talk conversion, because we realize that if we just send emails or we send a message, there are a lot of customers who've been getting a lot of that in the pandemic, and they probably have information overload right now. So there's a need to talk. So we encourage persons to listen to the very detailed presentations that we're given through the call-in programs later on this month that will give detail on how the debit card rollout will go, what to expect with the new credit cards,
Right.
what to expect with mobile banking and internet banking.
Right.
And we want to say as well, the customers who listen and stay engaged will know, okay, I need to tell my employer this is my new account number. I need to change all my standing orders because this is a new account number. All the standing orders with to pay insurance or pay my Netflix or the Amazon account.
Right.
So because it's a new platform, everything has to be re-entered and re-registered.
Yeah.
Right.
And we want to let our customers know that's what they need to do, what action is needed in order to make sure they have a seamless conversion. But we want to give them the assurance that the information will be available on our website. So if they don't capture everything in the conversations, they could go to our website, www.republicbankgrenada.com, click on the link, Let's Talk Conversion, and they could view all the discussions, all the infomercials, even a little walkthrough on what the new internet banking platform will be like, how they will interact with it. And for those who need to update their information and the bank's been reaching out and they have not been responsive, we encourage them to respond, give us the up-to-date information so that we could contact them easily when their turn comes to collect their debit card. And they can email us if they're unsure still of the information we have out there at conversion@rfhl.com, or they could call us at 1-473-440-4725, and they'll get all the information they need about the conversion.
Right. And I guess those other media engagements you spoke about, people can call in and ask their questions
Yes.
and so on about how they convert their new numbers, new debits, credit, and all of that.
That will be the opportunity for all the calling program and the
Right.
questions and
Good.
taking all the questions.
Good. Anything you thought we missed, Mrs. Dayali, that you want to highlight?
Except to say it's a wonderful opportunity to speak to our customers and get them ready for conversion and to continue that dialogue and let them know that Republic is committed to bringing exciting new products to the market, and we look forward to the continued loyalty and to make a difference in the community that we serve.
All right. Sounds like it's exciting times
Definitely, yes.
for Republic and for you as you continue on in your new role as the Managing Director of Republic Bank Limited. Thanks for joining us and best
Thank you.
wishes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Speaking with Mrs. Naomi Dayali, the Managing Director of Republic Bank of Grenada Limited. You're talking conversion. Please stay tuned, our Republic Bank customers, and of course those of you who were Scotiabank and not Republic Bank, and exciting things are happening. So tune in, go to the website, call in today, continue to stay tuned to all the information about conversion. We take a quick break, we'll be right back. When we come back, we convert to talking to the Minister of Education about what's going on with school and other matters that we have for her. We'll be right back.
Get vax. It's your best shot. Hello.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
For persons with symptoms of COVID-19, testing is done within 5 days of the start of symptoms using a SARS-CoV-2 antigen test. If the result is positive, individuals are required to isolate for 14 days. Day 1 of isolation is the day of confirmation with a positive test. Retesting is not required for release from isolation. Once persons complete the required 14-day isolation, they can resume normal activities, observing routine public health protocols. If the result is negative, a PCR test will be done for confirmation. If the PCR test is positive, the individual is required to isolate for 14 days as above. If the PCR test is negative, the individual will be released from quarantine and can resume normal activities observing routine public health protocols.
Tourism connects us all.
Welcome back to Perspectives. In this part of the program, we welcome our Minister for Education, Information and Religious Affairs, and she's also the parliamentary representative for St. Andrew Southeast, the Honorable Emmalin Pierre. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning to your viewers, your listeners, and of course, the rest of the panel. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning. Good morning.
Great. Well, this is nice to have you joining us again. When the last time we spoke with you, we did invite you back. It didn't happen the way we wanted, but here you are, and it's glad to see that you have kept your commitment to be here with us this morning. Before we delve into the meat of the matter, Minister, I know at the top there, last week as we headed into the weekend, examination results came out, and we know we had some situations. Anything you would like to say? Anything you'd like to address the public on?
Well, I suspect you speaking about the fact that we lost one of our brightest brains, a young man who, to me, had so much prospects. That's Giovanni, a former student of GBSS and T. Marshall Community College. My heart goes out to his family. Of course, I had the opportunity to speak to his mom over the weekend, and a very strong lady. I have not met much people with that level of strength. And I just want to encourage her and encourage the rest of the family. I don't want to get into discussing the circumstances. I've seen so much said in public domain. We can all speculate and all of that, but I just prefer to focus on what a wonderful person Giovanni was, and my heart goes out, as I said, to the family. I had the opportunity, and those memories are what you treasure, really. I had the opportunity to invite him to my office. I still have a photo of him with his little smile, peeking out. That was after he placed second in the international Brain Bee competition. And such a humble soul, such a intelligent but very humble child. And, God knows best in these circumstances. That's all you can say, God knows best. But we also do have another student from the St. Andrew area who also passed over the last couple of days. And again, too, my heart goes out to the family. I have not gotten on to that family as yet, but attempting to do so today. Hopefully I can get a contact. I was out, only came back over the weekend as well. And we did have a teacher in Karakou, I believe, or Pitimatnik, who also passed over this period. So we've lost a few persons in the education system, and may their souls rest in peace, and may their families find comfort in this very difficult time. It's not a time that you want to lose anything, far less loved ones.
Yeah, you're right. This whole period here has been encapsulated by just loss of everything, loss everywhere. Yeah. When we left you last time, I know you were going into some discussions about school reopening, what was going to be defined or set up a roadmap really for a safe reopening of school. Where are we with those discussions?
So the key factor is always the safest possible reopening. And I always like to start from this point of who determines when. And that determination comes from Cabinet on the advice of Ministry of Health. So sometimes you hear people say, why the Ministry of Education don't open schools, or why the Ministry of Education don't close schools? The law says that the Minister for Education determines the closure and the opening of school on any given day. If a school has to close, it must be authorized. However, in a pandemic and in situations like these, national emergencies, so during the flooding in River Road, why is the Ministry of Education not saying to close? We must wait on NADMA, we must wait on the relevant authorities in that regard. So same here. We have not gotten the official clearance from the Ministry of Health and Cabinet on this matter. I suspect that that would come today as it relates to what is the final decision, reopening. And that decision is hinged really on the level of risk and the safety as you referred to. So they would say, we believe, that's Ministry of Health, that the risk is low enough that we should reopen. right? Or we can reopen. Then the Ministry of Education would now kick in the how we reopen. And from that perspective, we have already come up with a plan. And this week has been really exciting. I had the opportunity to meet with a wide cross-section of stakeholders, because I always feel I like to be informed of how people view things and see things that would help to shape my final position on matters, critical matters like these. So I had the opportunity to engage with the Advisory Council, chaired by Senator Dayali there. And I also had the opportunity to engage the union, to engage principals, to engage parents, a cross-section of parents, and also students. Yesterday, I had a cross-section of students from as low as grade 3 and grade 2 all the way up. And it was so, Brenda, I was so touched, listening to these young people, these children express their views. When do you think schools should open? How do you think it should open? Who should go first? And so I think we are in a position now, not information overload, but very rich information to help inform the how we are going to reopen school. And I await the final pronouncement today on that, and hopefully tomorrow I will be making a national announcement in that regard.
All right.
Minister, good morning again. And I am going to take us down another line that, as usual, let's say I've been touted now as a mandatory vaccine czar, so I suppose I'll take whatever they give me. But, I believe one of the things that you have mentioned in the past, that the when is going to be very dependent on the level of safety for students returning to face-to-face. And this is important because we have learning now that is happening virtual, and we know the ups and downs of that. And of course, we have blended and of course, full face-to-face. So my question to you is, should we at some time in the decision-making process be able to listen or take into account the need for our students to be vaccinated on a mandatory level as well as the teachers? Because we have I think it's 30,000 students in the system. I mean, just getting them vaccinated alone would jump up our percentages as a nation and get us close to herd immunity. And on top of that, I know you said the last time that private schools have been asking to come back to face-to-face learning because they have said to you that their students are vaccinated as well as their teachers. So will that play any role into the decision-making process of getting us back to some form of full face-to-face or blended face-to-face with virtual?
Right. So the subject of vaccination, I want us to understand it's not just about what's happening right now. It's not just about how many cases we have today or how many we had yesterday. I think the question of vaccination also plays into what is likely to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. In other words, we may open school today, and in 2 weeks, we may have to close them again, right? And so to reduce that possibility, it is the reason we've been encouraging persons to get vaccinated. One of the things that really stuck out to me in the conversations that I've been having, and it's very unfortunate, it worries me. I mean, my eyes popped open on several occasions when I heard it. There seem to be a large number of people who are convinced that we're going to be having a shutdown just after Christmas. I mean, it's very unfortunate that people seem to have already concluded in their mind that we're going to behave naughty in December, Christmas is coming, and we're going to shut down in January. So I've actually had people say to me, let us not open before December because then we'll have to close down again. And this is a very unfortunate something for me, right? Now, as it relates to vaccination, as I said, it's not about what's happening today, but to inform what is going to happen in the future in terms of the level of risk and the way that people to continue their education. So at this stage, we are monitoring the current situation. Of course, it's improving, as you said, the numbers are going down. We're increasing our numbers towards herd immunity. However, we are not saying to people, don't get vaccinated anymore because our numbers are going downwards. We're saying, even if our numbers are going downwards, we will have to go back to school. And we may not be able to wait for it to go down to 0 to go back to school. And even if it comes down to 0, doesn't mean that somebody out there is not counted. So to protect yourself further, to increase the safety that we speak about, we are still encouraging you to get vaccinated. The issue of mandatory vaccination, that is not a decision that can't say what decision is going to be finally taken, but I don't suspect that is going to be the decision as it relates to school reopening. We are going to be encouraging persons. As a matter of fact, there's a very ticklish one, which is that of students under 12.
That's right.
Now, if you make vaccination mandatory and you say every person over 12 must be vaccinated, you're more than likely saying in the same effect that children under 12 would not go to school for the next year, possibly, right? So it's a statutory decision. I have an idea as to where the decision will go, right? But I'm making the point that this is extremely difficult. And I'll give you a practical example. And yesterday I was sharing with the students, I said, you see how difficult this decision is? So in the parents' meeting, there were some parents from PT Matnik and Karaku present. And the parents from PT Matnik were saying, whatever decision you make, and we have our border control and we have our system. When the fishermen come in, this is what we do. So whatever you decide, Minister, PT Matnik must be treated separate. All of our schools should open. And for a moment there, I just drew that as a conclusion that this sounds, really, really authentic, right? In the conversation with students yesterday, the exact opposite view was shared as it relates to PT Matnik. And the student was saying, Mister, don't assume that because our numbers are low, don't assume that because we don't have many people coming into PT Matnik. The fishermen go and they don't all come through and get checked, And it was just so interesting, the different views. There are some students and some parents who say, we should open next week. And believe me when I tell you that there are some people who say, let us open September next year. Let us open March next year. We just need to make sure that there's absolutely no COVID before we open. So, of course, in decision making, in leadership, you hear from everybody. You get the views of everybody. You digest that, you understand that. And then you now have to make a decision that is in the best interest. You may not always get the decision perfect. You may never get it perfect. But of course, some decision has to be made. And that is what leadership is about.
Minister, my last question to you on this is going to be for tertiary school education. We have the TAMCC. We have a very good shining example of what SGU did and how they did it and seemed to be successful at the tertiary level. And we understand the CAPE and whatever diploma subject that you're doing at TAMCC. So it sounds to me that tertiary level is going to be somewhat different to say secondary and primary and the 12-year-old issue and those above 12 years. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be some separate consideration for the TA Maricho and possibly blended learning for those who cannot be vaccinated because of some medical issue also?
Mm-hmm. So as it is now, where we are as of today, and the date is the 18th, as of today, there's no position or decision on mandatory vaccination for any categories of students or teachers, right? As of today, there's absolutely none. We have been encouraging, we have been advising for your best interests, we are encouraging you to. On the subject of the TAMCC students, one of the things that is an advantage in this situation is that CXC has now advised that unlike what is normal, that year one would do the exams and then do another exam after year two, for this group of students who are coming in now, the fact that they're starting very late because they should have been in school about a month ago. And so they're saying that this group of students will not be sitting an exam after year one. They would be doing unit 1 and unit 2 at the end of year 2. Right? So, and that is, of course, to give them sufficient time to settle in and to, get their stuff going. So that is an advantage, meaning that the urgency with which you may need to bring in the first year face-to-face may not be as much as it would have been if that decision was not taken. As it relates to the year 2, of course, that would have to be a priority. I can't say at this stage what the final decision will be as it relates to vaccination, but I keep be responsible enough to be vaccinated. There is no mandatory at this stage.
Sorry, Minister, I have one further comment to make to you before I bring in Byron, and that is, if you have numbers on who are vaccinated, both at a student level and a teacher level, wouldn't that assist your decision making in how you bring back in a phased manner or not, face-to-face or blended?
And those are the views that may pop into one's head, and you feel, yes, you have it, that's the best decision. And then now you start thinking logistically. So it may sound great to say, bring in this group of students, right, and have this other group at home, and then you have the logistics now of how do you facilitate. We are looking at a model. I'm not saying it's vaccinated related, but we are looking at a model, and we're looking at the possibility of the blended and how we can facilitate. But I want to stick in a category of people that is of grave concern to me, and I'm sure to many persons. There are a large number of students who have not been engaged since, I believe it was the 6th of September that school was to open. This is about a month. These are students, in some cases, they do have devices, they do have connectivity, and they are not connected in any way to what's happening in the classroom. In many of these cases, these students do not have the level of supervision. The reality of the Grenadian society is that we have deteriorated to the point where many parents cannot speak and instruct their children, right? Unfortunately, we have gotten there. And so we are very concerned about these students. Online is not working for them. So unfortunately, at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., when a class is going on, a student is in the river, a student is in the shop, a student is in the playing field, right? And so that child needs to be urgently engaged as it relates to their education. We may not understand the effect that is going to have on that child today. So we may view that as very casual, but down the road, we are all going to reap the fruits, and it's not going to be sweet. We are all going to reap the fruits of these students who have not been engaged and continue not to be engaged because of this pandemic. And that is why it's so important. We have to be thinking critically, strategically when we make decisions about reopening of school. It cannot be just full stop the issue of how many cases we have active and how many we have inactive. We have to broaden the scope of how we view this.
Morning, Minister, again. Look, when I listen to you, clearly, children face the risk of being the biggest victim here in this pandemic, clearly, based on what you say, because we know, in addition to what you said, we have the risk of poor nutrition. Because schools are a social infrastructure. It supports health and well-being and speech development, social stimulation. So is the overall rounded development of the children that is at stake here now. And this is a serious matter. And I'm pleased to hear you voice the point that the government is giving serious consideration for the reopening of school, because it has to be a priority. We have to get our children back into the learning environment. Because as you said, the long haul, the future doesn't look very well, as every day matters. So the question is, this is a public health situation. It doesn't matter for me how a person feels, whether they think, look, I don't support mandatory vaccination. It is what the scientist is. How do we protect the children? Children take polio, they take measles, they take other vaccination. There are job requirements also. It seemed to me, and that's my view, that the job requirements for teachers have now changed. It changed for new entrants. If you're going into the teaching profession, you need to be vaccinated. And if you're in the treating profession, if you're there, vaccination is a job requirement. So last time you said it was a conversation. Where is this conversation going? Because I continue to hear teachers union president talking about his position of not supportive of mandatory vaccination. Well, how do we reasonably, in a safe environment, bring our children back to school? Because it's not only the children in a pandemic situation, it's their parents. And so it's a much wider situation. I understand the conversation, but what specifically are the conditions are you looking at for creating that environment so that children can return to school as soon as possible?
Right, and put together with Mr. Dayali, I can conclude that you have me this morning. The conversation of mandatory vaccination is always a difficult one because you do have a large percentage of our population that have not demonstrated that willingness to be vaccinated, right? The most unfortunate thing about school is that you have a large percentage of people, and those people now will be children, who cannot make a decision for themselves. And unfortunately, they have to rely on their parents to make that decision for them. And so even if you have a child who decide, I would love to be vaccinated, I think this is in my, so I've logically looked at this thing and it makes sense when I look at the number of deaths and who died, I want to get vaccinated. Unfortunately, our system doesn't allow that child to make an independent decision, right? So I've heard, for example, students express to me, and I actually had one of the officers take that as a quote on the document that is being prepared for submission. And he actually said, going back to school, Minister, going back to school is a risk, but it's a risk worth taking. This is a student, and those were his exact words. I would never forget them. He said, going back to school is a risk, but it's a risk worth taking, right? And so what we have to look, based on our current situation, except there's a situation where vaccination becomes mandatory, right? We have to look at all the possible modalities that we can roll out, right? And this is what makes the situation far more difficult. It is a very complex one. And if you're dealing with mandatory vaccination, it'll be as easy as ABC, but it becomes WXYZ because we're in this situation where people have a choice, and that's just the reality. It is the reality. The uptake of vaccination is very low, and we have not reached that stage where we say it's mandatory. So at present, everyone has a choice. And even if you say to people, this is the reality, this is the science, some people are still not convinced because there's so much misinformation. As I said, a final decision has to be made today. But it is not the easiest of situation, because if you decide you are going to go with mandatory vaccination, you may well have 50% of the parents deciding, I'm not sending my children to school, which brings us back to square one, right? If you decide, because some parents may just decide, I prefer not being vaccinated over education, let's not be naive. There are some people that may decide that. So you're still back to square one with the objective, which is educating the population, right? And then you may decide, okay, we are going to give the exit classes an opportunity, vaccinated or unvaccinated. And then some people would think you're putting some students at risk. Some people would say, I prefer to fail my exams than to go back to school. So it is the most difficult decision. I thought it was difficult last year, but I think this year really top it. It's a difficult decision to make. You run the risk of going down the discriminatory road as well. If you say, for example, this category of students and that category of students. So there's so many things to consider. But at the end of the day, as I started, leadership is about making decisions, and we make a decision today.
Yes, Minister, and I agree with you. It's a very difficult situation, decisions to be made. I worry about. I think about the deaths. I think about we think about the economic impact, the livelihoods of people being affected. Clearly, I think Senator, you alluded to it, that the pandemic is here to stay. I mean, the virus is not going to go away. How we create an environment where we are able to live with the virus, coexist with it, that is, but how do we protect our vulnerables, the elderly in particular, people with underlying conditions? And I mean, we all have to play our part, and I just believe that it's a period of firm decisions and dialogue, of course, in doing this. And I think that the unions and the all the stakeholders, teachers, parent-teachers association, all these organizations, related organizations, the government, the ministry, yourself, should come together and have this open dialogue. In other words, what are the best conditions? What would provide for the country, for children, the best opportunity going forward? So I know it's not an easy decision, Minister. Thank you.
But I just want to stick one more thing that, concerns me deeply from engaging. And I refer to the first one, which seems to be that there are some people who have concluded that we are going to have a major spike in December. And, I really don't know how we could be planning and conceptualizing, that we're going back where we were a couple months ago. So I pray God this is just a thought, right? The second thing that I've noticed coming out that's very unfortunate, and I mean, we know that we have been going downwards as a society in terms of how we love and care for each other, that human side of us. But I saw it so real in some of the conversations. For example, you would speak about students, because we do have students where there are concerns about incest, concerns about supervision. We had 1 or 2 cases of pregnancy even at the primary school level during the last lockdown. Wow. And so there are real issues and real concerns facing our children out there. And so I've noticed the conversation has been a brush aside in some cases. You literally have somebody say something like, well, I'm connected, find another way to help them. When you speak about the child who is not able to connect. And so that caring side of us, what is happening to these children? How are they affected? And I really want us as a nation to relook the road we are heading as it relates to caring, thinking about the less fortunate, thinking about others in general, because I get the feeling that we're on a road of me. Once I am okay, really doesn't matter who else is not okay, and that frightened
well, we
me
all know
during the conversations.
We all know that COVID has taught us that that's not the case, because if I'm not okay, Mr. Dayali is not okay, Mr. Campbell is not okay, because I could give them COVID right here. So if I'm not okay,
I'm not sure
we all are
if
not
we're
okay.
learning that well, Brenda.
Pardon?
I've heard some comments that startled me.
Yeah, I know, I understand. I'm just trying to kind of amplify what you're saying in another way. The question though, as you engaged, what is the temperature? What are you garnering from your conversations with the teachers union? Mr. Campbell mentioned hearing the president saying he's against mandatory and so on. He did say that he is vaccinated though. I did hear him saying that on radio. What are your conversations with them? What is that like?
So the union has expressed, and this is more than a month ago, that they have no issue with vaccination. But the critical thing for them is that they don't support mandatory vaccination. And they have given their members a choice, choose whether you want to, you don't want to, consult with your doctor and all of that. So that's their position on vaccination. As it relates to the reopening of school, we have engaged with the union. Of course, they do not think that we should be reopening school this year. And that's basically the position.
What's their basis for that?
Sorry, I missed.
Why shouldn't school be reopened this year? What are the factors they're putting forward that school should not be reopened this year?
Most of the persons who share that view that school should not be open this year, their concern is that we do have active cases. I think generally speaking, every person that has shared that view backs it up with their concern that we do have active cases. Yeah. And yes, I think that's generally the
Minister,
view
we are gonna from now going forward, we are going to have active cases of COVID.
Yeah.
Do we know
Brenda,
that? Have we wrapped our heads around that?
There are persons who believe that even if it means 1 year from now to reduce the active cases to 0, we should keep the children home for another year. Persons, I'm not saying that's the view of the union, but I have heard persons share that view very strongly. Unless it gets to 0, we should never bring children back to school.
Minister,
and by doing that, we heading for a generational disaster.
Absolutely.
Minister, we really, I'm astonished because we really, it means that we still have some work to do to get our people to wrap their heads around what this virus is, where we are with it and where it's going. COVID is not going anywhere. We're always we're gonna continue to have active cases. We may have 10, we may have 1, we may have 2, we may have 45, but we are going to continue to have active cases. And so life needs to go on. Life needs to go on. I mean, I know we have to let you go to your cabinet meeting this morning, and those regulations are up.
The critical thing is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
The critical thing is personal responsibility. What am I going to do to protect myself?
Yes.
And to protect others? If I'm wearing a mask properly, if I'm sanitizing my hands, and if I'm keeping the appropriate distance, the possibility of getting COVID-19 is almost down to 0. And I think that is the critical thing, right? And I have said before, at the end of the day, it boils down to what am I prepared to do? Because we have to stop focusing on COVID and focus on our own action. What are we doing? Correct. What are we not doing to encourage or to increase the spread of the virus? If we focus just on COVID and what COVID is doing, then we're going to always have a problem. What am I doing? Am I wearing my mask on the bus properly? When I get into contact with somebody, what do I do? Am I still hugging? Am I still kissing? What am I doing? Now, if we don't change our behavior pattern, then there's no way that we're going to take full control of this situation.
Well, you look forward to hear what the decision will be finally. Sounds like you have a lot to make that decision. But before you go, though, there's also some rumblings about the amount of individuals who are allowed to be at church. There seem to be a wide-ranging thing purveying that, the government said to the churches is 20 people. Where did that 20 people come from? What was the engagement like?
So I'm going to answer that, but you must give me an opportunity to just speak for a minute as it relates to the CXC results. Yeah. As it relates to that, so I try to draw a line differentiating those people who are very genuine in their concern and those people who are, really out to create mischief, right? So I want to deal with the people who are very genuine about this concern and why it was 20 people. Now, whenever we make a decision as it relates to church, it's very different to school. We have treated churches very different to schools from day one. As a matter of fact, I've always said this. The very first protocol that was done for churches in Grenada was developed from scratch with the involvement of the religious community. Cabinet did not add or subtract, right? There's always been a level of respect for the religious community as it relates to COVID-19 and what is done and what is not done. We know what happened during that period of the major spike. Every person, I believe, agreed that we needed to do this shutdown to get some measure of control over this situation. So when we restarted the reopening, the conversation also started. As a matter of fact, the conversation includes the major organizations representing the religious community. So you have the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, which includes the Evangelical, the Pentecostal, all of those very active organizations. And then you have the Grenada Conference of Churches, also very active. That includes the Adventist, the Catholic, the Methodist, the Anglican, the Spiritual Baptist, and all of those organizations, others that I probably might not have mentioned. We also included the Muslim community in that conversation. And so when that meeting takes place, whether it be burial, whether it be weddings, whether it be funerals, whatever it is, the group of persons express the view of their community, their constituents.
Right.
And so it was this group of persons that said, look, we are very concerned about the level of risk of having funerals in churches. At first, I didn't understand it. But when I listened to them and their concern, government agreed that yes, let us move all funerals to the cemetery. We were concerned about that decision, but we understood their concern. It is the same way that when the conversation started about reopening churches, they expressed concern that looking at the numbers of deaths, looking at the numbers of active cases, look, Minister, it would not kill, it would not to observe for another 2 weeks. That was the decision. That was their recommendation for 2 more weeks. Let us give this an opportunity. As a matter of fact, I remember one person saying, we lost leaders, top leaders in our organization. Let us just look at this for another 2 weeks. 2 weeks expires tomorrow. And the follow-up meeting was already held, right? The meeting concluded that we are going to postpone having in-church activities for 2 weeks, except that we are going to allow an increase in numbers for persons who carry the services live. So that is where that 20 persons came in. Okay. I remember Pastor Stanford Simon saying, Minister, 10 is difficult. When you look at our technical team, we're about 18. So I know people like himself would have been very happy that it moved from about 10 to about 20 persons. But that was not the only decision. That was not the only decision. The meeting came to a point where one person raised the question, but wait a minute, what if you have a church and you don't have a technical team? Or you're not carrying the service live? What is the difference? Shouldn't we allow the 20 people to just come anyway and to have their service? The meeting started, and it's unfortunate I have to be that detailed, but sometimes, as I said, people who intend to create mischief sometimes influence people who don't know. So the meeting started off by saying, let's stick to the technical team, 20 people, only people who come in to lead worship, to preach, to play in the music band and all of that. And then went to another direction because somebody said, well, that's not so fair, What's the difference? People are people. So whether it's 20 people for technical or 20 people who come to service, 20 is 20. And the meeting ended by agreeing that 20 persons would be allowed, and this is why it was drafted that way, inclusive of the technical team, meaning 20 people in total. It doesn't matter whether it's for the technical or non-technical. And it's just unfortunate. And I really want to express appreciation to Reverend Osbert James, one of the persons, and Pastor Devon Roche, the two people I've heard who have sought to explain what happened in that meeting from their own view. They were at the meeting. And of course, I thank them for their honesty and their openness in setting the record straight on this. I would also say one more thing on this matter. When Cabinet met, you may not believe this, but and it's unfortunate I have to say all of this. When Cabinet met, the decision that day, because the meeting with the religious community was on the Tuesday, Cabinet met on the Monday. So the decision of Cabinet was, we are not making a decision on churches. Minister Pierre, when you meet with the religious community, we are going to factor in the decision of the meeting into the regulations after you consult with the Prime Minister.
Because the Prime Minister
That
didn't
was
announce anything in his speech, yeah. That's correct.
That was the decision. And so it's unfortunate that it has been taken out of context and so much has been said. The reality is, after the meeting with the religious community, there was no cabinet meeting. You notice the regulation was amended the following day or 2 days after to include that. Why? Because the decision of cabinet was, we are not coming back to the cabinet for a decision. Whatever is discussed there, Minister Pierre, you are going to raise it with the Prime Minister, and the Attorney General would make the relevant amendments thereafter. And this is exactly what is happening. It's unfortunate that persons would have made certain comments as they did, but you know, it's the Grenadian society. That's what we have deteriorated to, unfortunately.
All right. I know you wanted to comment on exams because we have to let you leave for the
Of
cabinet.
course. So tomorrow I will be most likely, except something changes in terms of government priority for the press briefing tomorrow. But tomorrow we will be giving the nation a brief on the results of examination. That's a CXC suite of examination, which includes CSEC and CAPE, but also CCSLC, which most people are not aware of. Right? So I want to use the opportunity, Brenda, even on this platform, before I make an official pronouncement tomorrow, to congratulate all of the students who have done well, who have made their parents and their community, their school community proud, and have excelled in different ways. And I just want to wish them all the best in all of their endeavors, future endeavors. But I want to speak to briefly those persons who may have concluded that they did not do very well. And I just want to say, simply put, it is not the end of the world. It is not the end of your journey. And when we fall, the best thing we can do for ourselves is to brush ourselves off, get up and run again. And that is my encouragement to those students who might be discouraged. I've heard of one student who have isolated herself. She's not talking, she's not engaging, and so on. Of course, there's disappointments, but there's life after disappointment. There is success after disappointment. And I just want to encourage every student. The final thing I'll say, Brenda, is as a society, I want us to place more emphasis in other areas when it comes to those results that are coming out. I notice we have gotten very much caught up. Who got 20 and who got 19 and who got all ones and who got all twos, right? Absolutely. I want us to place a little more emphasis on two things. One, the issue of that well-rounded individual that we are supposed to be producing to make a contribution to society. And a person can be that, not having 19 subjects or not having 15 subjects. A person can be that indeed, valuable to society, well-rounded. But also that we must have a conversation on those students, and I started doing some mathematics on paper here. It is over 4,000 when we count grade 4s and 5s from the exam and the ungraded or absent. I have a particular interest in what happened there. So the 9,281 based on my math that fell within grade 1 and grade 3, hooray, great, excellent. But we need to start having a conversation, a deeper conversation around that 4,236 persons, according to my math, that fell outside of the 1, 2, and 3 grade. Yeah, again, congratulations to everybody, and let us work together to improve our education system. I believe we are on the right track. There's a lot of work to be done, but it requires everyone on board in making it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Now we have to let you go for the cabinet meeting now, as you decide what will be our fate from tomorrow, right? Sounds kind of ominous, right?
whichever way it goes, Brenda.
No, well, Hannah, you know I like to show, you know I like to give you messages to bring to the head of the cabinet.
I got you about the coffee.
Listen,
no. But you know the way
Minister, just so we clear, just so we are clear, and I know you love clarity. Just so we are clear. You extend our hearty well wishes to the cabinet, right? And we are very, very interested in having a discussion about extending the curfew. You know what I'm saying? And just giving us some breathing space. Because the thing is, if the curfew is extended, businesses go later, more money. We just need to start to breathe, Minister, breathe. While we have to be extra careful as well. Because we don't want no second wave.
As we breathe, I would just add that as
Storia.
to give science a chance. I believe we have to give science a chance in this case, and we have seen firsthand evidence that tells us that the science has been consistent thus far as it relates to when you compare what happens to vaccinated and unvaccinated after they have taken after they contract COVID-19. So I just want to encourage everyone, let us make the right decision to protect ourselves and to protect others in these very difficult times.
All right. Thank you so much, Minister Pierre.
Have a blessed day.
Thank
And
you.
you have a very, very good one. And hope we'll be talking to you. Hope it won't be so long till we speak to you again.
I know.
All right.
I leave that to you to decide.
All right. Have a great one.
Bye.
All right. Speaking there this morning with our Minister for Education, the Honorable Emmalin Pierre. She's also the Minister for Religious Affairs and the Parliamentary Representative for St. Andrews Southeast. Mr. Campbell, Senator Dayali?
Yeah, I go first, Senator.
Sure.
Look, 3 points quickly. Remedial work with the children going back to school.
Yeah.
That's going to be really important.
Critical.
And I think that children, young people taking the exams should not feel bad because this is a different time, different circumstances. Mm-hmm. And as the minister said, there's opportunities. You get up, you can do it again, you can repeat it. It's not the end of the world. This is the beginning. But the critical point I want to make that, Chris, the pandemic is a question of health and safety, and unions have done tools before for health and safety issue. This is a health and safety issue, and I want to see them take it as a health and safety issue. If I'm a union, I'm a unionized workers, I want to ensure that my workers are protected in the work environment, and one of the protection is the vaccination. So, but I thought the conversation was interesting. I'm really pleased to know that maximum consideration have been given for young people to return to school. It's important, they are really, particularly the poorest, that are being affected most also. So this is a positive development, and I look forward to tomorrow when we'll hear what the rollout is and how is this going to happen. But Brenda, you're not going to get at 11 o'clock. Yeah.
I don't know about that. We'll see. You don't know that we won't. It could be 10. Let me tell you, when you are negotiated enough to know, you say the high one, right, so it falls where you really want. But I'm honored the engagement she has had, the minister that is, to kind of get a feel for where we're at. Yeah. So, you engage the advisory council, she engaged students, engaged parents.
They're talking.
Yeah, I really like that wide 360 she took to get information, to make the decision. Yeah.
My last comment is going to be one thing, messaging. And I think you hear the minister, I'm hearing also she's saying that they need help in convincing people to get vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And I want to make a suggestion for the messaging. We've been hearing from the doctors, we've been hearing from the scientists, we've been hearing from business leaders, union leaders. Vaccination is something to be done. I want to probably suggest that we could probably change the messaging to get it to the grassroots people by using our playwrights. We have the Chris DeRiggs, we have the other
Francis Urias Peters.
And probably they could do segments on the radio talking a language and talking things to that segment of our population.
I heard
who
they have
seems
been
to be
engaged.
hesitant.
I heard they
Yes,
have been
to change that
engaged.
messaging.
Excellent.
And let that messaging come out often and let people hear it at a different community level.
Popular theater always works well
Yeah. It
because
always works.
it's our culture,
Connects.
our lingo.
It connects.
So
Right.
so
And
popular,
I want to
popular
suggest
theater always
that
works well.
some of us step back and let that messaging go out.
Yeah.
Because
and
I
let
was
the playwrights
speaking
do it.
to Uncle Francis Urias Peters
Yeah,
about
and
that. So
I think that
what do
is-
you do? You should get involved. And he
So,
said they were
I leave it there
engaged,
because
yeah.
I think if we get the messaging correct and we could get the parents of the children between 12 and 17 to get them to vaccinate, school will come back face to face.
Big deal, yeah.
And whether it happens before the year ends or very early in January, the point is we must give ourselves a timeline and a deadline so that we can get them back. And we mean that we must convince the parents who are still hesitant to get their children back.
I like what the student said. That is a risk going back to school, but it's a risk we're willing to take. I really like what the
And that
student
speaks
said.
volumes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it
speaks
does.
volumes.
I really like, and that's where our
it
thrust
does,
should be,
it
because
does,
that's
it
our
does.
next generation.
Yeah.
I really like what the student says. Getting news that former Secretary of State Colin Powell has died.
Okay.
Yeah, from complications through COVID-19.
Whoa.
Yeah. General Colin Powell has passed complications COVID-19. So may he rest in peace. Great man he was.
I think
Great man he was. So may he rest in peace. So look forward to hearing what's going on tomorrow. Oh, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. No late. That's a couple days. Happy birthday to you.
Well, I can't sing like
Wow,
so
wow.
all I can tell you is happy birthday, my brother. And keep on looking as good as you do.
Happy
Don't stop.
70th.
Yeah, 310.
Oh my goodness,
You know,
that is
wow.
a blessing.
It's a special
Please
day.
go. I tell you. Now I have an attitude. It's a positive attitude. And I'm very much unbothered. You know, Chris, you can't tell me nothing.
And
I'm not-
Nazim's birthday was the day after yours.
Yeah?
Yes.
Nazim.
Nazim,
happy birthday to
3, 4,
Nazim
and
as
10.
well.
Yes.
You know, 7 is a special number. as you
It
know.
is, it is.
Number of completion.
Kind of feel different.
Yeah, number of
Must
completion.
feel
a big
different,
deal.
man,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
look
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So don't stop
Yes,
doing
you
what you're
do.
doing.
No.
And I mean, I must send kudos to the wife. Obviously,
Yeah.
she's a big part of that.
Yes,
Of
absolutely.
course.
I agree.
A young man said to me, Mr. Campbell is 70, Brenda.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah, we may ask you for
that
another
man looking
vaccination
good,
card,
boy.
the other card.
But it feels good. Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
so-
And I believe the land has something to do with it.
it definitely does. The land and the sea,
Yeah.
both of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
They say the closer to you are to the land, the healthier you are.
Land and the sea, both of them.
So, you know, I'm planting pumpkin over the weekend. So again,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I followed the man for
Yeah.
I like
did,
pumpkin
it did,
punch.
it
So
did.
remember
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
I love
yeah.
pumpkin. So punch, yeah. So that's
Good,
wonderful.
Byron.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thank you.
So
We're not on next week. Next week is next Monday is the 25th. What's the dates like?
next Monday is the 25th?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's oh, it's that day. Oh.
Yes, that
Oh,
that
that
day.
day,
That
yeah.
day. I don't call it by that, Chris.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah. We are on a different hill. It's that day.
that day, but, I
Right.
say
So
for what
it-
it's called.
Oh, it's
So
called,
we
yeah.
won't be here next Monday,
Yeah,
folks,
yeah, yeah.
because it's that day. That is a holiday.
Yeah.
But tomorrow is October 19th.
Yeah.
We commemorate it. We don't celebrate it. I don't know
Yeah,
anybody who celebrates it. We commemorate it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Kirk's birthday tomorrow.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Kirk! Happy birthday
birthday.
to you.
So we have a lot
It's gonna
of
be
October
Kirk.
people.
lot of
Yeah,
October people.
boy. A lot
Liberals, yeah,
of,
we
a lot of
balance,
liberals
you
in
know.
my space. Yeah, yesterday was my
balance.
sister's birthday, and 2 days from now is my
Wow,
other sister's
wow,
birthday.
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
I won't have no comment on October people.
Yeah. We are balanced. That's all.
I know it is.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a scale.
He's something
Yeah.
like the October issue. So tomorrow is a
Yeah.
90 happy birthday, Kirk. Have a great day
Yeah.
tomorrow, and
Yeah.
just in memory of those who lost their lives on that very fateful day,
Yeah.
and a prime minister and some of his cabinet members and other Grenadians were assassinated. Let's not put it any other way. That's what it was. and in memory of their lives were lost. We do commiserate. We know lots of people, it's very tough for them around this time. Former members of the People's Revolutionary Government, the People's Revolutionary Army, many of them PTSD, we never paid attention to them. It's still time for us to check up on some who are still alive. We don't seem to be very good at that as a nation. And one thing I implore is about time for all of those of us who are writing these books, these tell-alls and these summaries. It's time for us to tell the full. It is time for the full to be told. Someone told me we won't be able to take the full, but it's time to start to tell the full. It's time. It's time. That's it. That's my perspective on that this morning. For all of us here, we thank you so very much, everyone. Mr. Campbell, have a great week. Continue to celebrate your birthday all month long.
All month long, no question.
All month long. All right. I hope we get some corn and lemons. Where is it, Senator Dayali?
7 months.
7 again.
Senator Dayali, you have a great day, a great week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Same to you as well, Brenda.
Yes, and everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Mrs. Naomi Dayali, the Managing Director of Republic Bank Grenada Limited, came in this morning and spoke about the conversion. What's going on to this brand new platform? Stay tuned. Go to their website, call, find out what you need to do. Those of you who are Scotiabank customers, and even those of you who are current Republic Bank legacy customers and others, please stay tuned for more information. And a special thank you to our Minister for Education, Information and Religious Affairs, the Honorable Emmalin, Pierre, for being here with us this morning as well. For Blondell George, our director, Nazim Benjamin, providing professional streaming services. All the entities who joined us, we thank you. Kirk Oliver, our camera person, whose birthday is tomorrow. For executive producer Richie Oliver, I am Brenda Baptiste. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, do have a great week. Bye-bye.